My friend, this lesson is for you. Maybe you came here to practice English, but what you're about to hear goes far beyond grammar and vocabulary. This story is about courage, mistakes, victories, and life itself. By the end, you'll see English differently, and you'll see yourself differently too. There is a boy in Liverpool. His name is John Lennon. He has a small house, a small room, and a big dream. He wants to play music. He wants to be heard. He thinks that music can change his life. He thinks that music can even change the world. The street outside his house is often noisy. Children shout. A dog barks. Cars go by with dirty smoke. John looks again through the window. He sees boys with footballs. He sees girls with school bags. He wants something more. He wants sound, light, and song. At home, the kitchen is small. It smells of tea and toast. His aunt makes eggs. She says, "John, take your book." John answers, "I don't want books, I want music." She shakes her head. She looks again at him. She often says, "Music is nice, but school is important." John just laughs. He touches his guitar. He feels the cold strings. He feels the dream inside him. At school, teachers talk about numbers and maps. John does not listen. He draws guitars in his notebook. He sings small songs. His friends look and say, "Do it again, John." John smiles. He knows he can do it. He knows he can play. But he also knows that school is not for him. He thinks that music is his only road. One day, a friend says, "Come, there is a concert." John goes. The hall is dark. The sound is loud. The guitars are strong. The drums are hot and quick. The people shout. John feels the floor shake. He thinks, "This is it. I must do this." The sound enters his ears. The lights hurt his eyes. Yet he wants more. He cannot stop wanting it. Later, he takes his guitar to the park. It is cold. The grass is wet. He plays. Children come. They listen. One boy says, "I like that." A girl says, "Play again." John looks again at his hands. He thinks that they can do more. He spends many hours with his guitar. He puts all his time into songs. He often says to himself, "I can do this." At night, the city is quiet. John sits near the window. He looks at the stars. He talks to himself. One day I will go to London. One day I will sing in a big place. One day people will know me. He feels small, but he also feels strong. He has a dream. He has a guitar. He has music. It is simple, but it is real. His aunt comes again. She puts tea on the table. She says, "John, you must sleep. You must think about school." John looks at her. He says, "I think about music. That is enough." She is worried, but she is also soft. She knows John is different. She knows he will not stop. She says quietly, "Well, do what you must. But remember, life is not easy." John smiles. He knows life is not easy. But he also knows he must try. He must go, he must play, he must sing. He has nothing big now. But he has his dream. That dream is light in the dark. He holds the guitar close. He closes his eyes. The sound of music is already inside him. The dream is already there. Next, John goes to meet a friend. His friend's name is Paul. Paul has a small guitar, too. They play in a small room. The walls are old, but the music is new. John looks at Paul. He says, "Play the song again." Paul smiles and plays. John listens. He feels the beat in his chest. He taps his foot. He thinks, "We can make something big." Paul nods. He thinks the same. They spend many days together. They talk about music. They talk about songs and notes. They talk about dreams. Sometimes they laugh. Sometimes, they fight. One day, John says, "We must write our own songs." Paul answers, "Yes, we can do it." They put their ideas on paper. The words are simple, but the music is strong. They play, and the street listens. People stop. People smile. People clap. John and Paul look again at each other. They know this is the start. One afternoon, they go to a cinema. The smell of popcorn is hot. The music from the film is loud. John says, "I like this sound." Paul nods. "We can make songs like this." The lights are dark. The screen is big. John looks at the screen and thinks about songs, about crowds, about London. He must go there. He must see the big city. He must play for many people. Then, they go back to Liverpool. The room smells of cold wood and wet floor. They play for small crowds. Boys, girls, parents, sometimes only 5 people. John says, "5 is enough. We can do more." He often says, "We must try again. We must play more." The words are simple, but the feeling is strong. The streets hear them. Shops hear them. People start to know their songs. John feels the music inside him grow. He feels the dream get bigger. He looks again at Paul. Paul smiles. He thinks, "Yes, we are ready." But not everything is easy. One day, a man says, "Your music is too loud." Another says, "Go away. This is not for you." John feels cold. He feels small. He thinks, "Maybe I cannot do it." Yet he looks again at Paul. Paul says, "We must try. We can do it." John feels warmth. He feels hope. They take their guitars. They play in another street. The sound is strong. The people listen. They clap. They cheer. John smiles. He says, "This is better." Paul says, "Yes, it is better." Next, they meet another friend, George. George has long hair and a clean guitar. They play together. They sing together. The music is louder. The songs are faster. John says, "This is good. We are stronger." George nods. He looks at John and Paul. He says, "We can go far." The 3 boys play until night. The stars are bright. The air is cold. They do not feel cold. They feel the music. They feel the dream. They look at each other. They know this is only the beginning. At home, John's aunt watches him. She smells the music, hears the laughter, and sees the hope in his eyes. She says, "Maybe this dream is real." John smiles. He says, "It is real. We must work hard." He often says, "We can do it. We can do it." The small room is full of sound. The small city is full of hope. John knows the next step is London. He knows the big streets, big lights, and big people are waiting. He knows it will be difficult, but he also knows they can do it. First, John and his friends plan a trip to London. The city is big, loud, and full of people. The train ride is long. The smell of coal and metal is strong. John looks out the window. He sees small towns, green fields, and rivers. He thinks, London is big. London is bright. London is where we must be. Paul says, "We are ready." George nods. They take their guitars and sit quietly, thinking about songs, thinking about music, thinking about dreams. When they arrive, the streets are noisy. Cars go fast. People shout. The smell of food comes from small shops. John smells bread and hot pies. He feels excitement and fear. He thinks, "This is different. This is the big place." They walk through the streets. They put their bags down in a small hotel. The walls are thin. They can hear music from other rooms. John says, "It is loud, but we like it." Paul laughs. "Yes, we like it." Next, they go to a small music club. The stage is dark. The lights are small. The sound is heavy. They play their first song in London. The people listen. Some clap, some look quiet, some smile. John feels the music inside him grow. He looks at Paul and George. He says, "We can do more." He often says, "We must play better. We must play louder. We must sing stronger." The crowd reacts. They feel the music. They feel the dream. Later, they meet a man who knows music. He has a big office. It smells of paper and coffee. He looks at them. He says, "You can play. You can sing. But you need work." John listens. He feels nervous. He says, "We will try. We must try." The man smiles. He says, "Come back next week. Show me your best." They leave the office. The streets are wet from rain. John feels the cold on his hands. He feels the hope inside. He thinks, "We must do it. We can do it." At night, they walk near the river. The water is dark. The lights of London shine on it. John says, "Look at this. It is beautiful." Paul says, "Yes, it is different from Liverpool." George touches the water. It is cold, but we feel alive. John thinks again about songs. He thinks about people singing with them. He thinks about London and the world. He says, "We will play for many people. We will be heard." They walk quietly. They feel the wind and hear the city. The dream is growing stronger. Next week, they return to the music man. They play new songs. The man listens. He nods. "You have talent. You have something special." John smiles. He says, "Thank you. We will not stop." Paul says, "We can do it." George says, "Yes, we can." The music man writes something down. He says, "I will help you. We can make a record." John feels hot inside. He feels happiness and fear together. He thinks, "This is big. This is our chance." Then, they start recording songs. The studio is bright and clean. The microphones are shiny. They touch the instruments. The music is loud. John says, "Sing louder." Paul says, "Play faster." George nods. They do it again and again. Sometimes it is difficult. Sometimes it is easy. John thinks, "We can do it. We must do it. We will do it." The sound fills the room. The dream is real. The music can reach people. John smiles. He feels proud. He knows London has changed them. Finally, the record is ready. John, Paul, and George go to a small shop. The smell of vinyl and paper is strong. The lights are bright. People listen to their music for the first time. Some dance. Some smile. Some buy the record. John looks at the people. He feels warmth in his chest. He says, "This is it. People like our songs." Paul nods. "Yes, they do." George smiles. "We can do more." They all feel hope. They all feel proud. They all feel the dream is true. Next, the city starts to know them. They play in clubs, theaters, and even on the street. The sound of guitars, drums, and voices fills London. People shout, clap, and sing along. John says, "Look at them. They feel the music. They feel our dream." He often says, "We must go further. We must play more. We must sing stronger." Paul laughs. "Yes, we must. We can do it." George nods. "We are ready." The city sees them. The city hears them. The dream grows bigger every day. But success is not easy. One day, a newspaper writes something bad. John reads it. He feels cold. He feels worried. He says, "Why do they not like us?" Paul touches his shoulder. "We must not stop. We do what we love." George adds, "Yes, we must go on. We must play." John smiles. He feels courage. He says, "You are right. Music is our life. Music is our dream." They take their guitars and play until night. The sound fills the small streets. People listen. People cheer. John thinks again, "We can do it. We must do it. We will do it." Then, a big chance comes. A famous radio station calls them. They play live on the air. The microphone is cold. The room is hot. The sound is loud. People listen at home, in cars, and in shops. John looks at Paul and George. He says, "This is the moment." Paul nods. "Yes, this is it." George smiles. "We can do it." They play their hearts. The crowd hears every note. The songs are strong. The dream is now larger than London. It is in England. It is everywhere. John feels happy. He feels proud. He feels the power of music. Later, they get more records. More people come to listen. The streets are full. Fans shout their names. They smell flowers, hear voices, and feel hands clapping. John often says, "Look at them. Look at what we have done." Paul says, "It is not easy, but we made it." George nods. "Yes, it is real. Our dream is real." John feels small sometimes, but he knows the dream is bigger than him. The music is bigger than London. It is bigger than fear. It is bigger than worry. They must continue. They must play. They must sing. Finally, John sits near the window of his hotel. He smells coffee and hears the busy streets. He looks at the lights of London. He thinks of Liverpool, the small room, the wet park, and the first song he played outside. He feels proud. He feels strong. He knows the journey is difficult, but it is worth it. He says quietly, "I wanted to learn, to play, to sing. I have done it." He smiles. The city is alive. The dream is alive. Music is alive. John knows this is only the beginning. He knows the world will listen. He knows the dream will grow. John, Paul, and George continue their journey. They play more concerts. They meet new friends. They see small towns and big cities. The air smells of food, the streets are noisy, and the lights are always bright. John often says, "We must go further. We must play more. We must sing stronger." Paul nods. George smiles. The music is growing. The dream is growing. The people listen, clap, and sing along. John feels happy and proud. He feels that learning and trying has given him this life. One evening, they sit in a small cafe. The smell of coffee and bread is strong. The sound of chatter and cups is loud. John says, "We have come far, but we must not stop." Paul smiles. "Yes, learning never stops." George laughs. "We learn every day. Every city, every song, every person teaches us." John looks at them. He feels calm. He knows that every mistake, every difficult day, every small step was important. He says, "We can do it because we tried. We learned. We never gave up." They all feel the power of effort and hope. Later, John talks about the past. "I remember the small room in Liverpool," he says. "I remember the wet park, the cold guitar, the quiet streets. I wanted to learn. I wanted to play. I wanted to sing. It was difficult, but I did not stop." Paul nods. "Yes, every day we learn something new. Every day we get better." George adds, "We must remember why we started. Music, dream, friends." John smiles. He feels that learning and trying are the keys to success. He often says, "We can do it. We must do it. We will do it." Next, they make their first big record. The studio is bright and clean. The microphones are shiny. The music is loud. John, Paul, and George feel nervous but excited. John says, "Play louder." Paul says, "Sing stronger." George nods. They do it again and again. The sound is perfect. The people listen. The record sells in London, in England, and then in the world. John feels proud. He feels joy. He knows learning and practice made this possible. He says, "We can reach everyone because we never gave up." The dream is now larger than the city, larger than the country, larger than fear. Finally, John sits quietly and thinks about the future. He smells coffee, hears the wind, and sees the lights of the city. He knows music will always be part of him. He knows learning will always be part of life. He often says, "I wanted to learn English, I wanted to play, I wanted to sing. I did it. I must keep going." Paul and George sit beside him. They smile. Yes, we learned. Yes, we played. Yes, we sang. The dream is alive. The music is alive. The people are alive. And John knows that life is better when you learn, try, and never stop.